got 4 cages, 2 pitching lanes, and then we've got a lot of workout equipment, fitness equipment, strength and conditioning. And we're finding that a lot of high school players are up there. They're getting their weightlifting done after school, and then they'll jump in the cage and get their reps in. And we tried to make it really affordable.
Welcome to 24/7 Diamond Talk, episode 3. I'm Tom Richards. I'm here with Matt Mangulis and Chris Willert, and we got a lot to talk about this week. We're gonna get into the first week of high school games and recap college and look ahead to next week. So we'll just jump right in. We're here at Triple Falls Studios, drinking some Hoist watermelon, and
I like it, by the way.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Thanks. Which is one of our sponsors, and then Dunkin' Donuts, not a sponsor currently, but maybe they should be.
Yeah, it's a good day for donuts.
It's always good. Is there a bad day for a donut?
No,
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So local high school softball off to a good start here locally with East West and Loyola St. Clair all winning games. Strikeouts is the name of the game, though. Both East and West had 15 strikeouts from their pitchers, and Lake Crystal had 14 versus St. James, which is one of the key games of the week yesterday. Avery Vogus, a good pitcher from Lake Crystal, versus Laney Bowers, good pitcher from St. James. 4-0 final for Lake Crystal Welcome Memorial, but 10 strikeouts from Bowers as well. So a lot of strikeouts, a lot of good pitching in the area. Mankato West was down 2-1 to Northfield at Northfield. Had a nice comeback in the 7th inning to come out on top 4-2.
Did you catch that on the stream?
I watched.
Yeah.
What controversy?
Yeah, what happened at second base? I don't know.
Well, first there was a play with a spinning ball in the batter's box that would cause some confusion. I think Maria Hagan was the bunter, and I'm not sure, but both coaches came out of the dugouts a couple times. But on second, they called obstruction on just a regular sacrifice play, and they went 2 with it, I think. And
yes.
They called obstruction, and I don't know, it was kind of controversy, but I think it benefited both teams, each call. So
yeah, well, that would have been the third out right there, I think, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think it was a 2-out rally. I'm trying to think how that all went down, but
they call obstruction, which you don't see a whole lot on that play, and then give West an inch there, and they got some good hitters.
They did. They took advantage.
They came into that inning with 7-8-9 up, and you didn't know it wasn't looking great, but they did their job at the bottom, got around to the top, and those girls know what to do.
Yeah, I think it was an Emery with the walk, and then the sack, and then some sort of play there at second.
Yeah, and then Bodie had a walk, and then Jillian.
Oh, it was Bodie. Yeah,
Jillian had a nice hit to left.
She had a hit. Yep.
And then Bodie walks, and then Bance comes up. Jillian had tied it with her hit, and then Bance hits a kind of a flare to left, similar to Jillian's hit, but the girl kind of got her glove on it, so I don't know if it was a hit or an error. I called it a hit. I couldn't really see it on your feed, and I was at another game. I was watching Gustavus play at the time and watching it on 24/7 live stream, so that was great. But Brooklyn Gertis, 15 strikeouts.
Yeah, that was big.
Impressive. So.
That is, Northfield's never has been a rollover team. They've always had a good team.
No, Northfield is probably in that next tier after East and West in the Big Nine. I would say, along with Otana and some others. So that was good. So, and then another 15 strikeouts down in Albert Lee with East. Kylan Stangl dominant on the mound. 11 strikeouts in 4 innings, and then 5 innings. And Haley Petzel comes in 2 innings and 4 more strikeouts. So Stangl and Petzel combined on a 1-hitter. East bats come alive 11-1, led by Haley Petzel with 3 hits. She had a great winter as well. I saw her in the dome a lot, really hitting the ball. That kid's really improving. Gustavus recruit next year, pitcher, first baseman. But, what can you say about Kai? She's one of the best pitchers in the state, 11 strikeouts, dominant performance down there. And then her little sister gets 3 hits. Harper Stangl, an 8th grader, her first start of her career, 3 hits. Who would have known from the 9-hole? So congrats.
What grade is she in now?
8th grade.
8th grade.
Yeah. 8th grader, yeah.
They brought her up for playoffs as a pinch runner kind of last year. But
I remember that. She had a little experience. And
different type of player than Kai. Kai's more of a power hitter. Harper's not as much power right now, but a lot more speed on the base pass and an elite defender at many positions, infield, outfield, catcher. So she's got a bright future. And there's some other kids with bright futures at East and West that we'll get to see this spring. So, so that's East West. St. Clair Loyola wins 3-1 at Medelia, so it's good for them to get off to a good start. Lydia Clace's pitcher. I used to coach her a long time ago, so she's pitcher now for St. Clair Loyola, so that's good that they're 1-0. I watched 12 Gustavus games recently and 6 MSU games since we
how was
last
Florida?
stopped. So Florida was great weather. A lot of times college teams go down to Florida to try to find themselves, and by the end of it, you think they're ready to roll and get back into the conference season. Gustavus ran into 4 teams down there that were unbelievable. One is still undefeated on the year, Oshkosh, Wisconsin Oshkosh.
Oh, yeah.
One of the better Division III teams I've ever seen, actually, and they're unranked. They're probably going to be ranked this week, or next week, because they're still undefeated. And yeah, they just put it on us a couple times. But and then we played a ranked team twice, so that was 4 of our games that we were kind of overmatched. And then we went 2-2 in the other game. So can't say they really found themselves down there, but they came back and opened conference season, whole new mindset, and maybe played their 2 best games of the year the other day at St. Peter Gustavus Field, and they took care of Concordia Cobbers. So Maddie Mueller had 4 hits and 4 runs, and we've had consistent pitching most of the year for Gustavus, and both Maisie Anderson, Megan Sherwood, and Ava Hampson all did great. Hampson threw a 1-hitter or a 2-hitter in game 2, so that was great to see. So Gustavus is doing well now. So that today we're going to Hamlin actually for another doubleheader, and then they have another away doubleheader at St. Mary's next week. So 3 on the road to start.
Where was Bethany supposed to be this week? I saw on social media that they had their games postponed or canceled for this weekend.
I'm not sure. They won a couple games earlier against Martin Luther last week, but I'm not sure where
I'll have to look that up too. But
yeah,
I saw that. Was it Wednesday? Maybe they had already canceled their games for the weekend, and I mean it's pretty nice out here, but maybe it's they were in Wisconsin.
And Bethany is off to a nice start. They got a nice squad this year for sure. So some local kids that are contributing. It's nice to see. MSU, they took care of USF middle of last week, swept them. And then yesterday they just swept Bemidji State. And in fact, MSU has won 10 in a row now, so they're really on a roll. They're the only team in the NSIC with 30 wins. They're 30-8 overall, having a fantastic season. They're also led by their pitching staff. They got 3 pitchers with low ERAs, and actually the whole staff is pretty low on ERA, but led by Michaela Armbruster, who got her 500 strikeout yesterday. So that was good to see. And then, I'll come back and talk more softball about upcoming games this week. There's some big time games coming up, but I think we'll move on to Chris Willert and let's talk baseball.
Where do you want to start?
I think let's start on the recent week, like the openers for East and West.
East and West both opened this week. Loyola actually opened a week and a half ago already. So Loyola's already 3-0 on the year.
Wow.
So they've had a couple good starts there, but both East and West opened on Thursday. East opened at home against Albert Lee. Albert Lee is one of those teams, like they're always like I'll call them a sneaky 500 team, meaning they're that 500 team that all of a sudden just out of nowhere beats the number 1 seed in a section and stuff like that. And they've done things like that in the last few years. But no, we opened against them at home, and first inning, they kind of, they manufactured 3 runs, we'll call it. It wasn't pretty or anything like that. But they put together 3 runs in the first, and then Owen Stoopman settled down from there. He was a little shaky in the first inning. Breaking ball wasn't quite breaking the way it normally would and stuff like that. But eventually he found it. He settled in, and they did score a couple more against us later in the game. But we were down, 5-0 at one point. And 6th inning, we put together a 5-run inning to tie it up, and then turned around and walked it off in the 7th. We've got a sophomore starting in center field, Carson Hart. And all I kept hearing for years is how fast this kid is. And I'd never seen him play, ever. And all of a sudden, in that 5-run inning he got on, and I went, oh, yep, he's fast. And it was one of those where you kind of went, that's game-changing speed right there. Well, in the 7th inning then, he got on with a walk, and it was one of those you knew first pitch he was going. And he had second base stolen, I think, dang near before the catcher got the ball out of his hand. So he stole second, managed to get him over to third, and then Owen Stoopman hit. Some people will call it a Texas League blooper. It wasn't even that. It was one of those where the shortstop and the third baseman, I think, both kind of looked at each other like, who's taking this thing?
Yeah, it was hard to tell on the stream. I was watching and I wasn't sure.
It was one of those, like, there was technically no error to be called, but you realistically go, well, that's an error on both of you, for letting that thing drop. And, that drops, and Hart was already across home for the walk-off win.
Good guy to have on base when in a tie game.
Yeah,
speedster,
absolutely. A couple of guys, Zach Bossy and Austin Henley, both got their first varsity hits in that game, so congratulations to them. But Owen picks up the win with 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run. Or actually, he didn't pick up the win. Nate Bridger actually picked up the win because he was in relief in the 7th inning. So Owen pitched the first 5, then Peyton McCormick came in for the 6th. And then, Bridger closed it out in the 7th there. Ainsley Stubbs, 2 for 3 on the night as well. So that was kind of the big highlights there on the east side of it. So that was a fun one. And West basically kind of did what they did to everybody last year. It didn't really matter if you were a good team or not. It seems like last year they were 10 running everybody all regular season. And that's what they did. They opened at Northfield. Northfield's a very good team. Definitely, I think they were ranked in the preseason rankings and things like that. But West with a 10-0 win there. Moggers, 2 hits, 10 Ks, no walks, shutout. That's pretty much what you're going to expect from him, I think.
Great player.
For the year itself. Obviously, he's heading to play D1 for Creighton next year.
Who's the leadoff?
Charlie Hooterlick.
He was 3 for 3.
Junior. He's 3 for 3. He's another one that's fast. Like, if you want to watch a kid run, that kid flies. But he was 3 for 3. Moggers 2 for 2. Mason DeRose 2 for 4. Evan Mays 2 for 3. For Charlie, that would have been his first varsity hits because I don't think he got any time on varsity at all last year. So he was up, and then Evan Mays is a junior, but he was up last year towards the end of the year and stuff. So. They kind of, like I said, just kind of did what West has been doing these last few years.
Have you looked at their schedule of what they've got? I'm just not necessarily strength of schedule, but I'm just kind of looking at, I noticed, I think they have 3 home games in the next 40 days or something like that, 30 days. They're on the road a lot.
And no, it's not pulling up for me. I just literally had it up. There we go. They are, their next 4 games in a row are all on the road. They go to New Ulm, Faribault next week, and then down to Rochester on Saturday the 13th. So basically 4 games on the road next week. Then they come home Tuesday the 16th to play Century. So,
trying to match schedules, see when I could get up there. I'm looking at it. I'm like, they're on the. Obviously, they play up at the Frank or
at ISG Field.
Yeah.
Yep, they're up at ISG Field. But and I was going to say, as far as strength of schedule, East and West both play very tough schedules. That Big 9 schedule is just flat out tough. You got a lot of good teams in there, and like I said, every year, Albert Lee is just one of those. Like I said, we played them the other night, and they're just one of those teams that they're always hanging around. And come section tournament time, I guarantee they're going to beat somebody that they're not supposed to beat. That's just what they do. It's a little frustrating, to be honest. They're one of those teams where you just kind of want to stay away from them. So,
who's all in the section this year? But I suppose we don't really have to talk about that too much right now. But
and I didn't bring the sheet with me, but
it has changed a little bit this year.
It changed a little bit because New Prague has bumped up a section,
right.
And I'd mentioned that on our last podcast. New Prague is gone. So the teams are, it's East, West. You'll have Marshall in there. I'm trying to think. Albert Lee, St. Peter. St. Peter. Every team in our section has a legitimate number 1 starting pitcher.
Right. Depends when you face
Then
that.
from there, it's who has the 2, 3, 4. Because you're going to need 2, 3, 4, and maybe even 5 to get through that section tournament. But every one of them has that legit number 1. So on night, game 1 section tournament wise, that's why you're going to see somebody beat somebody they're not supposed to. because, like I said, every team has that legit number one. St. Peter's got one. Albert Lee, absolutely. I mean, that kid the other night that was throwing for them, I mean, he was maybe 5'5", 140 pounds. He was a high school wrestling state runner-up this year. But, man, that kid could throw, and he was hitting his spots and everything. But that's what makes our section so interesting, that it doesn't really matter if you're the 1 seed or the 2 seed or whatever it is, because somebody's going to go down that's not supposed to go down because of that. Right. So
a little bit different than softball. I think you could put your money on East or West in the final this year.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, from what, and you correct me because I'm not, I mean, I follow a lot of softball and stuff like that. My sister played a lot of softball years ago. She was on Loyola State Championship team back in 2001 or whatever that was, but it seems like with softball, if you have that dominant number one and even a good number two, you're probably going to go a long ways.
Keep her healthy, and you're in good shape.
Yeah. And with baseball, that's just not it, because you got the pitch count and X number of games and X number of days. So it's one of those things where if you throw your number one on game one and you let him go for 100 pitches, let him go a full 7 innings, you're done with him for the next 4 or 5 days. Right.
Yeah, some of the dominant high school pitchers, they pitch, let's say, 80% of their team's games, and then they move on to the next level and they find out they're one of 6 pitchers. It's a big change. Kylan Stangel's a Gopher recruit. She's only a junior this year in high school, but when she gets to the Gophers, it's not going to be just her. They'll be loaded with pitchers and stuff, but she's a good hitter too, so she'll probably hit for them, I would think. But
she'll find her way in the lineup, I would imagine.
That's just a big change. But in high school, you're limited to the number of games, and the arm care is it's not as difficult to get the arm prep for the next game as it is in baseball. So the recovery time is shorter. It's more natural motion underhand, and you can throw that kid a lot. I mean, you if you have another pitcher, you like to rotate them a little bit, just keep them fresh and happy. And kind of same thing with catchers. Sometimes if you have double headers, you don't want to pitch a girl 2 games in a row. It can be done though. But
I think it would be interesting. I don't know that softball would ever get there, but if you did have a pitch count or a rest between days, it would make a lot more competitive with a lot of other teams.
That was something, me and a buddy of mine were having a conversation about that recently, because we were just talking about, baseball versus softball and stuff. And he's more of the softball guy. Jay Reasoner, I think. You both know Jay. So him and I were having a conversation, and it was, and I made that comment. I said, it'd be kind of interesting if you could, if on the girls softball side of it, if you just said, pitcher is only allowed to start 1 out of 3 games or something like that. What would that do? And what it
would develop more pitchers,
right?
Yeah, sure.
It absolutely would. It would be interesting.
Yeah, I think that it would be interesting to see on the club side, like start that in the leagues, in the clubs when they're young, and develop more, and then bring that into high school, college. They still do that college, but you see more and more coaches now in college with deeper pitching staffs, and they won't go 2 times through the lineup,
right?
More than 2 times through the lineup. It just is I think up to the coach and what the coach decides to do or what their strategy is. But you see a few more of that now. But I will say that I've seen, and I have a pitcher obviously too, but you get deeper in the season and they're throwing all week in practice, a little bit different than baseball there. You'll see them, their arms do get tired. They take a couple miles an hour off. The kids that were throwing really hard at the beginning of the year, maybe a little off, but there's some kids that are just built stronger and whatever. They can maintain that speed throughout. I read, is it Montana Fouts one year was her off-season plan was to lift heavy, get a lot stronger, and try to maintain 70 throughout the whole season. And that's what really made me pay attention to it is even someone like Montana Fouts, she realized, I've got to stay strong. I got to take care of myself a little bit more through that season.
Right. A couple other little minor factors, like in game, there's only 7 innings in softball compared to 9 in baseball.
High school is 7 though.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, but it is 7. Obviously, when you get to college, then it goes to 9.
It goes to 9 in college.
But it is 7 for high school. So,
and then the throws over to first base and more warm up pitches per inning. Like there's just more arm stress going on with baseball. Just for
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Sure.
And the big thing with baseball, it's one thing if a kid is throwing, I'll say, 90% velocity, 90% of his velocity consistently, because it's one of those things you can't throw max velocity 100% of the time. You do that, your arm's going to wear down way too fast, and you're not going to be able to keep that up throughout the game anyway. So, but when you're throwing 90%, let's just say 90% velocity all the way through the game, but every third pitch is a breaking ball or something like that. Now you've changed the stress level. That's the stuff, when kids are trying to spin it and trying to get that, whether it's a curveball or a slider or whatever it is. And that's the stuff where now you're starting to torque that elbow and things like that. That's the stuff that wears it down. And that's the stuff, quite frankly, I think that's Major League Baseball is having a lot of issues with right now. I mean, Spencer Strider, one of the elite throwers right now in Major League Baseball, he came out of the game last night and he's having an MRI this morning, and Major League Baseball might be losing one of its stars because if he's having an MRI due to discomfort in his elbow, now we're talking Tommy John and, surgery.
Yeah, it's a year.
And you're seeing more and more of that even at the high school and college level. And like I said, it's because, too many kids, they're trying to do that. I want to throw as hard as I can. You need velocity to get recruited, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And without that velocity, that's not going to happen. It's like, okay, great, you're a pitcher, then you can hit your spots, but the college coaches aren't going to come calling until you start hitting at least 85.
Yeah.
And now then you got to get to 85 or 85 plus, and now you need to be able to figure out how to spin it, and that's what kids are starting to really try to do. Then is it's like, okay, well, how much spin can I get on that? Well, the more spin you get, like I said, that's what starts to wreck arms and ruin elbows.
You think some of that is so? We've looked at some of these things at 24/7 and read a lot about those, especially from the pitching side. But when they're younger, they're not fully developed; they're still growing. Especially males,
right?
Develop later, but they can still throw hard. So they haven't developed all of their, I'll say, tendons and ligaments, and maybe they're more pliable when they're younger. You've got that but we've seen kids that are not as strong as they can throw, if that makes sense. They can throw harder than the strength that they are.
Absolutely.
And I think you see that on the younger side a lot more. So the limiting their pitching and how much they do makes a lot of sense as they're younger there.
And I think overall the coaches tend to do a pretty good job taking care of those arms and stuff like that. But likewise, there's a few kids that I can think of in this Mankato area here that, in the last 10 years where all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's not pitching anymore. He's never going to pitch again. Because obviously, kid starts having discomfort in his elbow. You're not going to do Tommy John on a 15-year-old.
I've seen it.
Well, I have too, or I've heard of it, but it's generally not.
I don't know
something.
How many times can you do it? Once or twice? Can you get it?
I know you can have it at least twice because I know there's multiple major league pitchers that have had it at least twice.
So maybe it's two times.
But there you're talking a little bit different level. I mean, it's like you have a real reason to get this done and get rehab and get back.
Yeah. We were at a game for my son's 13U last year. And there was a kid with his arm in a cast, and I figured he fell down or wrecked his bike. And I'm like, "What did you do?" And he said, "Tommy John." And I bet you the kid was 13, maybe even younger. But
so, Chris, would you agree that high school pitchers should also pitch in the summer? To take care of their arm. I mean, if they don't, does that make it worse?
Obviously, I'm not an expert by any means on any of this. But the worst thing that you can do is take a lot of time off and then just suddenly decide you're going to start doing it again. You can't do that, and that's going to ruin arms. But no, I think as far as from what I've seen, from what I hear, whether it's talking to coaches or reading the stuff that I do, if you want to develop arm strength, you got to throw. Yeah. Likewise, I'm not. You'll see like. There's certain guys out there. I mean, Trevor Bauer was one of them. That Trevor Bauer believed in throwing max velocity in bullpens, quite often. Mm-hmm. But he was also real big on long toss. Long toss, I think, is one of those things that's going to really help with the arm strength and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you do have to throw hard to learn to throw hard. I mean, it's just one of those things. You have to do it. But I think pitching throughout the summer itself, absolutely. I mean, as long as you're not, obviously, everything, there's always a point I overdid it. Don't overdo it.
We should get a doctor on one day to talk about arm care. I think that would be kind of cool.
I guarantee we could probably get somebody from OFC to come in on something like that.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I learned my lesson in high school. I was a good pitcher for NRHEG, and we lost to Waseca in the region finals 2 years in a row, but they were loaded.
Yeah.
Congrats, Tink, and those awesome teams. But so I went to Winona State after that, and but in the summer before I entered Winona State to play baseball, I played men's fast pitch softball, and I ended up playing shortstop and a lot of sidearm stuff. And I get into fall ball at Winona State, and I can't throw strikes, and my shoulder hurts, my elbow hurts. I popped my bursa sac, and coach is asking me how much I've been throwing over the summer, and I'm like, yeah, not much. And it was like none. I maybe played one Legion game or something, but I learned my lesson, and it didn't work out for me. So I didn't even play the rest of spring season. I just played fall with them, and I was done because my arm was killing me, and I didn't know how to take care of it. But anyway, enough about me.
Well, there's two things there. I mean, the first thing is just the arm strength and stuff like that. So yeah, you got to throw to build that, and you have to throw to build arm strength. But the other thing is you got to learn how to pitch. And the summer is the goal for all those high school kids and high school teams is we want to win a high school state championship. Like that's the pinnacle.
I agree.
Even if our Legion team had won the state tournament last year, we'd have been like, that's awesome, but we didn't win that one.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that summertime, that's when you really learn how to pitch. And you can throw bullpens all day long and stuff like that, but you got to pitch in games too to learn how to pitch.
So I've had a theory on this too a little bit, and you've got range of motion and all those things, and everybody's got a little bit different range of motion and what their natural tendencies are. They go pronation or supination when they're throwing. And so my theory is you've got some kids that you can naturally throw, let's say a curveball or some sort of pitch better than others. Why try to force that pitcher or that athlete into a box where I just don't have that range of motion? I wonder if that's part of the issue too, that we just don't understand it enough to know probably shouldn't be throwing a certain type of changeup or whatever, where they just don't have the range of motion through there to be able to do that.
And there's probably a little bit of that, but I think more than that, the issue might be that, with social media right now, you can go out and you can watch video after video of somebody telling you how to throw this pitch, how to throw that pitch, and what this one will do and that one will do.
Yeah.
And kids are trying to do this on their own without any real training or anything, not without a coach helping them at all. And they're out there trying to figure this stuff out. And that's one of those things where, if you try to throw that one pitch where you're snapping it one way and you throw that 15, 20 times in a row because you're just trying to figure it out on your own, you might be doing damage to yourself.
Could be, yeah. You do it too many times, there's certainly going to be some there.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
So I have an answer for it. We need to get someone at 24/7. We have some pitching type instructors, but I would like someone that's a full arm care. My vision of that someday is the kid goes in, gets a PT assessment. What are your physical limitations? What are your range of motion through your arm? And maybe do a baseline on that. Go in and do your pitching mid-season. We should take that again. We should find out where they're at. I've seen just from my daughter pitching, you will lose range of motion when you start throwing a lot more. Your muscles get tighter, they get tenser, and you're not using that full range. That's when you start to, I'll say, open up to injury a little bit more, overuse. But we need a program like that here.
Well, Matt, you mentioned your daughter. Let's get a Summit League update from you.
Yeah. Well, we've been watching a little bit this week. It was a big night last night for one of our local softball kids.
I watched it happen.
Abby Sterling. She hit a bomb. Was it 8th inning? Bottom of the 8th.
Bottom of the 8th.
To walk it off there. Omaha had won 16 games in a row, top in the Summit League. So that was a big night for Abby.
Yeah, I think it was the longest winning streak in the nation, and they're in first place in the Summit League. And St. Thomas not having a great season at all, but that was a huge upset.
Yeah, that was cool
last
to see.
night. And Abby to walk that thing off with a 2-run homer was awesome to see.
Good luck to her today. The Tommies up there.
And good luck to the Tommies always, because I'm a Tommy.
Oh, are you?
I didn't know that. Sorry.
Yeah. Addie Bowers got her first shutout also last weekend against the Tommies.
That's not good.
It was Abby faced her, and I think Abby went maybe 1 for 3. I don't know if Bowers went the whole game that game. But she had a good night too. So
how about USD?
USD is struggling right now offensively. Pitching has been good, which back when Chris was saying, I remember the podcast, it's great that you have all these other players in front of your kids that are really good, and it's also bad because your opportunities are limited. So
they do have some good pitchers.
Yeah, I think we've scored 5 runs in 5 games total.
Wow.
Yeah, and we faced good pitching. The Kansas City pitcher, can't think of her name right now, really good pitcher there. And, of course, we played SDSU. And I would say, I would say she's one of the top pitchers in the nation. Yeah. Would she have 4 no-hitters this year?
She's
maybe
strong.
3?
I know that.
But yeah, she's pretty incredible. So they've faced some really good pitching as well. This weekend they're up in North Dakota, so we'll see what happens against UND.
Well, let's move on to next week's upcoming games, and we'll finish up with an update on 24/7 facility. But games of the week next week in softball, we have West at New Ulm on Thursday. That's probably the number 1 game. So New Ulm's now in our section, and they're preseason. I would say they look to have a real strong team, and Gertis just struck out 15. So we'll see what she does against New Ulm. That's probably a step up from Northfield even.
Yeah.
So that's a big game. That's on Thursday. Also, Belle Plaine is at St. Peter on Friday. So that's a big game for section standings, I think. So Belle Plaine at St. Peter's big. East plays Northfield on Tuesday. Northfield's at East. So Northfield held West down till the 7th inning, so that's also a big game. And then in Section 1A, I guess we should talk about Section 1A before I get into the games of the week. The favorites this year, I think, are the usual suspects. New Ulm Cathedral, Sleepy Eye St. Mary, Springfield, and this year an upset contender could be USC with Mariah Anderson.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
They need to score enough runs for her. She's going to win a lot of 1-0 games potentially, but they could do something against the powerhouses of New Ulm Cathedral, Sleepy Eye St. Mary's.
They've been putting in the work too. I mean, they came to Dome Ball. They brought, I'll say, a pretty good sized roster. Yeah. So they've had some kids that worked at it the off season. I know they were doing some batting practices and some things down there, but they certainly have a dominant pitcher.
Yeah.
And that's more than half the battle a lot of time.
And I want to mention the Gopher Conference. We got Randolph at the top. They're a powerhouse, and then probably Faribault, BA, and Blooming Prairie are probably the next best teams in the Gopher. But Randolph actually has moved up to AA, and they could run through the AA section potentially this year as a first-year AA team in Section 1, though, not here. So, also Monday, Sleepy Eye St. Mary at New Ulm Cathedral. So that's a key game this coming Monday. And then on Thursday, Sleepy Eye St. Mary is at Springfield. So those are 2 big 1A games.
Yeah, and it kind of depends when we get our podcast out. So it might be after.
Yeah, that's true. So we talk about these dates, but
today, tomorrow.
Yeah. So anyone watching, it might have been yesterday.
So, yeah, right. Yep. Good thought, Matt. So, Chris, what about upcoming baseball?
So on the baseball side of it, Loyola's got a couple of games this week, so they go down to Martin County West on Tuesday. The interesting one's going to be Thursday. They play Madelia. Madelia, can't remember who they knocked off yesterday, but they knocked off Thursday. They knocked off somebody that wasn't really expected. Jimmy Kiefer is their first-year head coach down there. Jimmy, of course, longtime Mankato Royals coach, coached 10 AAA forever and all that. But when I just saw the results the other day, and like I said, I'm blanking on who it was that Madelia knocked off the other day, but I went, oh, all right, they're awake, So that'll be an interesting one, and that obviously will be at ISG Field. So Thursday, Madelia and Loyola here at ISG Field. East, we're on the road today, so again, depending on when you listen to this podcast, it's probably a couple of days ago, but we're on the road to Red Wing today. So down in Red Wing, 1 o'clock game there. Red Wings always had a tough team, or at least in these age groups, the last few years they have. So that should be a good game. But then we head to Northfield on Tuesday, and as I mentioned, West just beat up Northfield the other day. So that's one of those where Northfield might look at it as they want some revenge and don't realize that East and West really are different things. They're going to look at it probably and go, we want revenge on Mankato.
Yep.
So going to need to be ready for that one. We did beat Northfield last year. But that was one last year where I think we scored in the 7th to actually tie it up, and I think we won it in the 8th. This is what I think happened. It was our opener last year. And then West, I'd mentioned it earlier, but they're on the road for their next 4 games. They got, Monday at New Ulm, Tuesday at Faribault. Oh, and that one, New Ulm, that one's going to be an interesting one between West and them. New Ulm, everybody says New Ulm's down, but New Ulm down tends to be, I don't know. That's still a team that can beat anybody on any given day.
They have a high floor.
They absolutely do. But, of course, their first-year head coach is Mike Anderson. And Mike, of course, was coach that helped take West to the state finals 2 years ago. So that'll be a little bit of an interesting one. I'm sure, West kids are going to want to beat Mike, and Mike's going to want to beat them. But that one should be – I think that'll be a fun one, to be honest.
How about Bethany upcoming?
Bethany, they are at home all weekend right now. We're playing North Century. We played yesterday, beat them 13-2. Doubleheader today. Bethany, since returning from Portland, they did their preseason trip to Portland, Washington area, where they had a rough stretch. They went like 1-7 out there. But they are now sitting at 9-7, 7-0 in the conference. And it's one of those, looking at the conference right now, it's probably Bethany and maybe Superior, and we don't play Superior for a while, but 2 games today, again, as I said, with North Central, then supposed to play a doubleheader tomorrow with Carleton. We'll see if that non-conference doubleheader, see if that happens. And then next week, Crown College. Crown has always been in the top 2-3 in that conference. But last year, literally almost out of nowhere, they suddenly fired their head coach. And I can't remember if that was right. I think it was before even the postseason. I can't remember, but it was one of those where it was kind of unexpected. And so they fired their coach, and all of a sudden had a bunch of kids leave. And that's the college, that's how college is right now with the portal and everything. So coach gets fired, everybody hits the portal, Crown's down now. So like I said, right now, I think it's between kind of Bethany and Superior. We'll see what happens there. You'd mentioned we had talked about this where, your daughter's playing college and my son's playing for Bethany. And I had mentioned how, you got really good players maybe in front of them. When you look at Bethany's stats right now for the team, Nolan Spence, third baseman that's playing in front of my kid, he's only hitting 420 on the year.
Oh, wow.
He is absolutely crazy. And it's one of those where it seems like every time he either gets a hit or he gets hit by a pitch, too. Because I think he leads the conference in hit by pitches.
Yeah.
Some of that goes back to the what we're saying, coach philosophy. In my opinion, I probably would have – hindsight's 20/20, right? So whatever. But we're fans, so I'm going to speak freely. But I probably would have made some pitching changes there. In some of those games, we got walked off in the 7th inning twice now.
Yeah.
Probably in the last.
Right.
It's frustrating. You want to win. But, that's their where they're going to go, and that's what they're going to do. That's what they get paid to do. But
yep, absolutely. So so Bethany's looking good. Always it's baseball, and like I said, with baseball, you've got to have the pitching, and they've got a couple pitchers right now. Like their number one, the guy that should be their number one, he's injured right now.
Who's that?
Gavin Jacobson.
Oh, okay.
He's expected to be back though. And then I know I'm blanking on the name, but the kid that realistically was probably kind of slated to be the number 2 or 3, he's had some issues, so he's out. Drew Hedke pitched yesterday, pitched really well overall, but Drew is one of those kids that if he and I know this because I don't really know him very well, but I know a bunch of his teammates obviously and stuff. And when I'm sitting up in the press box doing the PA stuff, one of the guys that runs the sound stuff is one of their pitchers as well. And basically, it was one of those where it's like, unless he throws a complete game no hitter or something, he's out there going, I suck. and it's entertaining to watch him pitch too, because he's got long hair and everything, and it's flying all over. But no, he pitched really well yesterday to get everything done there. So so Bethany season looking good so far.
Yeah, good to hear. So Matt, let's jump into 24/7. If you got any new news there,
for us, what's happened in the season, when the high school season starts, every once in a while the high school teams will need somewhere to practice or get a BP in. So we've got some of that. Depending on weather, some of the Peppers teams come up to our facility as well, get some batting practice. So teams out there that are looking for a place to get some BP, if weather's coming in, certainly give us a call. But otherwise, the activity has winded down a little bit because most kids are practicing every single day. The other thing I would add on that is we're talking about these live streams. Our YouTube channel, that's where this podcast is is at. Our YouTube channel, we live stream games. We've got East and West softball. We've got St. Clair baseball. We've also got East baseball. So we want to keep adding to those as well. So any of the local teams or high school teams, if you're wanting to get out there, we're going to actually start adding Loyola as well here pretty soon. And we talked about, I couldn't really tell on the stream. Some coaches, I think, are a little bit leery about putting everything out there for everybody to see. But in the end, you really get to kind of see and feel the action of the game and the score and what's going on. You're not really going to pick up too much, I would say, as far as scouting goes on those streams. We got a pretty decent quality stream, I will say, but it's not that high quality.
Yeah, you have to get Loyola lined up before they're ranked number 1 in the state here with the good start they've had.
We've got a camera and an iPad free available for them.
Good. I don't quite understand the idea of why a coach would not want your team to be seen. There's a few reasons why I think coaches should want that to be seen. Number one is from I'll call it the kid standpoint, where the kid wants to get recruited by colleges and stuff. Mm-hmm. You need video, and granted, it might not be the super close, super high quality or anything, but man, let the kids pull that stuff and. And if you're worried about from a scouting aspect, I mean, the reality is, like, what are you going to do? Steal their signs? Well, change your signs then.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like with the Game Changer. I know several coaches that don't use Game Changer at all levels, and it's because they don't want the other team to see their stats or whatever. And I think you can make it so they can't see it.
You can, yeah.
Like when I coach, even in Peppers in the summer, if we're taking on a team first round in a tournament, I'll check out their Game Changer and know who not to pitch to.
But I think that's different in club because you never see those teams here in high school. It's in the paper, it's in KEYC, it's in the Star Tribune. I mean, it's all over the place.
And at college, it's all everything's out there.
Well, college, they even go another level. They've got 643 or some sort of stat company where they're buying stats on them, and they know their heat map, everything about those kids.
Yeah.
Well, and to the high school coaches who don't want them to see that, go look at every college baseball team's website. They have all the stats right there for everybody.
Right, yeah.
And if they're not concerned at that level,
Yeah. Well, but
I mean, come on.
I agree, but that's probably a little bit different too. Where high school, you probably the kids aren't as mature maybe as some of the college players might be, and you don't want to get that going. So I can see where you hide your stats is fine, but from the scouting perspective, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, film. I think film should be out there for sure, but. And Matt, back when Matty was playing at East, Joel changed his ways. He was a guy that didn't believe in Game Changer or sharing with the softball hub, and now he does.
Yeah, I didn't know.
He's evolved.
Yeah, and I didn't know he did or didn't, but I think it was probably a matter of it's just another thing for Joe to do also. It's like, I don't want to, I don't blame him. That's a lot to take care of.
I mean, that's fair.
Part of it was the scouting. He had a belief that he didn't want to put stuff out there.
That could be.
But it worked well for him, but people evolve, and now they have to.
I know people do go on and want to scout the team and look, and that's fine. I don't know. I mean, certainly, you maybe pick up on something, but I don't know that that's going to be a game changer.
Right.
You still got to hit the ball. You still got to throw strikes. You still got to catch it. Not make errors. I mean, there's still a lot to the game. So.
Well, fans, that's going to wrap up episode 3 here of 24/7 Diamond Talk. From Triple Falls Studio. Thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Got 4 cages, 2 pitching lanes, and then we've got a lot of workout equipment, fitness equipment, strength and conditioning. And we're finding that a lot of high school players are up there. They're getting their weightlifting done after school, and then they'll jump in the cage and get their reps in. And we tried to make it really